Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Dream Life Loading Podcast, Season 2, Episode 22. I'm your co-host, Skye.
And I'm your co-host, Susan. How are you today, Skye?
We're so happy to have you back. It was so weird saying not wait, saying I'm Skye and not also hearing the Susan part of it. So I'm happy to be back with you. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling a lot better. The only complaint I have now is that my nose hurts from blowing my nose so much. I had a sinus infection, and if you don't know this, when you're pregnant, you can't take essentially any decongestant. I could have taken Tylenol, but it was like I tried it one day and it did nothing. So I was like, I'm not gonna add more to my system that I don't need. And I have found that like when I'm sick, pregnant, I am sicker, but
Mm.
I recover so much faster. And I was like, I don't know if it's just because your body's like going through a lot and like trying to keep you from being sick, or if medicine just seems to prolong the situation. I have no desire to test that theory because as soon as I can have medicine, like I'm gonna
Mhm.
pop an ibuprofen just for funsies. But I'm very excited to be on the mend and feeling better. I still sound a little congested, but I feel the most myself I have in a week. So.
Good, good. And your hair looks so beautiful today.
Oh, thank you. It is dirty hair. So she got curled today and it will last me. My hair has come a long way. Like, I used to wash my hair every single morning and now I wash it once a week. And like, you would never know.
No, I didn't realize you were down to a once a week girly.
Yeah, a once a week girly. And
That's
I don't even have to use, like, I have not used dry shampoo. I don't even know how long. Probably,
wow. You really trained
probably
your
like
hair.
5 months. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. That's like, I feel like you're the perfect example of this because so many people are like, no, I have oily hair. Like, I can't get away with washing even like
I
every
know.
other day. And that was you. Like, I remember I would tell you, like, yeah, I wash my hair like once a week, twice a week. And you're like, no, I can't. Like, it's not my hair. And like, you
Yeah,
totally,
in college it was really bad. Like I went to 4 different hairstylists and I was
yes.
like, what can I do? And it wasn't until Michaela, who I have now, still, and she was like, you're washing your hair too much. Like just stop that shit. And I was like, but like I'm gonna look like a grease ball. And she's like, trust the process. Like it's
Yes.
gonna take a couple months, and yeah, you're gonna look like a grease ball. She's like, put a hat on those days,
Mhm.
but you can make it. I found the other thing that makes the biggest difference. If I put my hair up, my hair gets so much greasier. So like I will do a low pony at the gym or have my hair down. Like if I'm just lifting, I'm gonna have my hair down. But if I'm doing cardio, I do put it up. But it's like a loose, light pony. And these like little scrunchies instead of hair ties have been huge, like huge. And you know me, I have like the thickest hair. Like it's ridiculous. And these are the ones from Slip, and they are amazing. I got them in a brand deal. I got like 9 of them, and this is all I use. I don't use regular hair ties anymore.
I need to get those because I have like these are like off-brand from like literally H&M or something and I was like, "Oh, like they look the same, so cute, but these get stretched out so fast and then
These have not stretched out. These I can put in a full bun and it will stay all day. Like I am very impressed by the quality
yeah,
of these. Like it's actually insane.
so it's
Um
worth the money because they are more expensive. Like it is one of those
yeah.
like more luxury, like if you're
Yeah, I'll
going
look it
for
up. I don't
like,
know how much they are
yeah, look
because
it
I
up.
didn't try that.
But it is one of
But
those things where it's like people are like, "Oh, you can buy a hair dye for 99 cents. Like why would I spend more money on it?" But this is kind of an
it
example of
lasts. I mean, I got these the
good.
month I found out I was pregnant. So I've had them for 6 months. They
Mhm.
have held up. I have not used anything else. And like I said, like I'm picky. Like I usually need reinforcements with my hair, especially because I haven't had it thinned in so long. But
Yep.
it's been amazing.
I love that. It's interesting that you bring up how you were training your hair and how you had to go through like the little bit of time where it was oily and then it like got better. And I did that during COVID because I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to see anybody, so I'll go through the hair training process. And it is like honestly kind of sucks because you like when your hair's oily, you don't feel as good, because it's like it weighs you down. Even like I feel like we look at our hair way more critically than people look at our hair. So like I'll look at myself and be like,
Mhm.
like even today, you were like, "Oh, my hair looks so oily." I was like, "Doesn't to me." But then going
Right.
through it, and I feel like I've learned recently, skin is the same way. Like often people are
Yeah.
way over cleansing. Like I have oily skin like in my T-zone, and I'm recently learning that cleansing less is actually better for oily skin because you cause your skin to produce less oil. Like it's exactly the same as your scalp. Like it's all basically the same. So it's just funny. I've been like
Yeah.
literally on such a skincare kick the past couple days. So it's funny that this was the conversation that ended up happening.
Okay, so their deluxe package of scrunchies, you get two of the big ones, which I don't even have my big one in front of me, but I use that for nighttime. It comes with two big ones and one, two, three, four, five of these size. It's $35.
Oh,
The best $35 you're gonna spend. That seems very affordable to
I
me.
agree. Yep.
I think that.
Slipped scrunchies. Sponsored.
Branching off of your skincare conversation.
Sorry.
Yeah, literally. um, Going back to your skincare routine though, you're gonna die. I don't use anything on my skin. Like
What?
to take my makeup off, I got these cloths. Yeah, to take my makeup off, they're just these cloths, like a washcloth, but they are a little bit longer, and it takes my makeup off. It doesn't smear it everywhere, it takes it
Yep.
off. And that's how I wash my face, just with water, and then I put moisturizer on.
Oh
And
my
that
God.
is all I do. I do
You
not do
never
anything
wash
else.
your face. Like with a cleanser.
No, not with soap or product. No, no.
That's amazing. Like, Susan, this is kind of unheard of.
I have tried.
Yeah.
I've tried because I've gotten so many products and whatever. Every time I use a cleanser or a soap, I break out. So
Interesting.
I just use water in my little I travel with them, like they go everywhere with me. Chris is like, you brought your face. I'm like, yes, because it doesn't then I don't I think the other thing too is now that I'm not using like makeup remover or makeup wipes, I think that's why my skin is so much better because
Yeah.
I'm not adding oils to it.
I always used to be like,
If I had like industrial makeup, like if I went and had my makeup done, I would
sure.
probably need, like added help. But
Mhm.
for what I do day to day, yeah, just water.
Oh, I was using like
Yeah.
back like in college and high school, I was using the Neutrogena makeup wipes, and then it became very clear to me that those are like literally
Yeah.
terrible. So I switched to micellar water, which I liked. I liked the micellar water, but I was like, I kind of hated how you had to like really pull at your skin. And then my friend actually back in what was this?
Mm,
Probably October, November. She was like, I asked her for makeup remover. I was at her house late, and she was like, "Oh, I don't use makeup remover." I was like, "What do you use?" And she was like, "I just use my cleanser." She was like, "I cleanse to get my makeup off and then I cleanse again to actually wash." And that's what I've been doing, and I
yeah.
really have seen such a difference just from that. So it's so interesting, like person to person, routine to routine, how like what works for you would
Yeah.
maybe not work for me, vice versa. So it's so interesting. You really have to like figure it out for yourself.
The other part of that I kind of forget is that I had to use product when I was at UNH and in college, and it's because of the water. The water was so hard at UNH because I was used to well water. My parents' house, which is a mile up the road from us, and now my house now is well water. And I think that that is probably the number one reason that I can get away with what I'm getting away with my skin and my hair is just not
I
having anything in my water.
I totally agree. I had well water at home, and it's so funny because like I had well water in my house, and 1 mile away was my apartment at UNH. And like if I washed
Yeah.
my hair at home versus at my apartment, it was
Yeah.
like so different. So yeah, it's so
Yeah.
funny.
And it's just things that you don't think about. Like you take a shower, you're not thinking about like water's water, but water is not water when you're
No,
used
and
to
like
specific water.
the good mountain water that you get where you live and
Yeah.
where I live. Like there's nothing better than that.
No.
Well, I loved that little rant that had nothing to do with anything, but
Yeah. It
the
was overdue.
it was. We needed a little catch up. So we have both, I blame you for this, happily blame you for this, that we have both been on such a thriller kick. I looked, Susan,
Yeah.
I have a double screen going today because I wanted to be able to pull up my Goodreads and talk about these books. This year, I have read one, two, three, four, five, six, seven thrillers already. Like
Yeah.
just back to back thrillers. I can't stop.
I'm trying to think. I mean, Kitty Carr was not a thriller.
No,
So that one and what was the other one that I read?
too late.
Funny Feelings.
Oh,
Funny Feelings. I read Atomic Habits and the 4,000
yes.
week or whatever. was. So four. So 14 of my books have been thrillers for this year.
Wow. Oh my God. You've been on
I know.
such a reading kick but just aside from thrillers, like you've been on such a grind anyways. But I feel like we just like every time we talk, it's like we're back to back, like just talking about like, oh, I just finished this one and I think if you're willing to try a thriller, because I know some people are like, oh, like horror's not really my thing. And like Sydney Adams on TikTok or Instagram, one of the two was talking and she was like, I for the life of me cannot watch a horror movie, but I love reading thrillers. And I
Yeah.
like horror movies, but I definitely prefer thrillers. And you
Yeah.
read so fast. Like if you're looking to get back or into reading, I would recommend thrillers over anything because it's so hard, obviously, for the reason it's so hard to put down. It's just so addictive.
Hmm.
And you
Yeah.
found some amazing ones this year. Like besides one, all of the thrillers I've read this year are on your recommendation, and they're all so good.
So we have to start with Jennifer Hillier.
Yes, I'm
Is
ready.
she's amazing. I found her on accident. I don't know if it was Goodreads or Book Talk, but I was looking for Kindle Unlimited books because I was like going through books really fast and I had just purchased one. And I was like, okay, now I need to use my Kindle Unlimited because I pay for that monthly. And I found Jar of Hearts and I was like, I'll give it a try. Like, I don't know. I had no expectations. I did not know what this was going to be. And I was hooked. I read it literally within 12 hours.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I
You
started
told
in and out.
me should I think I'll read it. I feel like it's worth reading the Goodreads summary. I'll try and summarize. So it says this is the story of three best friends, one who was murdered, one who went to prison, and one who's been searching for the truth all these years. When she was 16 years old, Angela Wong disappeared without a trace. Nobody ever suspected that her best friend, Georgina Shaw, now an executive and rising star at her Seattle pharmaceutical company, was involved in any way. Certainly not Kaiser Brody, who was close with both girls in high school. 14 years later, Angela Wong's remains are discovered in the woods near Gio's childhood home. And Kaiser, now a detective with Seattle PD, finally learns the truth. Angela was a victim of Calvin James, the same Calvin James who murdered at least three other women. So we'll leave it at that. It's a very long description, but that kind of gives you a little bit of a synopsis of what to expect. But it is so, like, I did not want to put that down.
Yeah, no, the character development in that book was just phenomenal. And her writing style I really liked.
I did too.
Um, and I didn't realize the title, like what that connected to until 70% through the book. And then I was like, how did we miss that? Like, how did I not put that together?
It clicked for me. I don't even want to give anything away, but it clicked for me kind of early because I kept thinking I was like, why is this the name of this book? So I was like, I think I was already thinking about it. And then it clicked and I was like, and then I kind of knew that that was going to be like a reoccurring thing, probably up until like 70% when it was like, oh my God. And this book, I really appreciated a thriller that had twists throughout the entire book that like I did not see coming,
Yeah.
but in the end wrapped up into such a
Yeah.
perfect bow. And you pointed this out, you're like, she's so good at putting like such a clean end on things. And as much as I love Frida and she will always be like such an elite thriller author in my mind, but I really like Jennifer Hillier's style of like great character development. I get into these stories more. Frida books, I say this in the best way, almost feel like fluff thrillers, if that makes sense. Like they're
Yeah.
not
Compared to,
reads,
yeah.
but these are like you want to dive in, like you really get immersed in the story.
Yeah. So from reading Jar of Hearts, then I read Things We Do in the Dark, which I loved. That
Yep.
was another 5 star for me.
I read
Um,
one, I just finished it yesterday actually.
yes.
This one, I'll read like a very quick, it says, oh, have you read Little Secrets by her? I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah, I read that one last week.
Okay, we'll talk about that one after. So this says Paris Peralta is suspected of killing her celebrity husband, and her long hidden past now threatens to destroy her future. So that's again, it's kind of like a murder trial, and then you dive in. I think she did it with Jar of Hearts. Oh, for sure. She did it with both of her books where you have the past and the present. And I
Yeah.
love being able to dive into like the past and
Yeah.
then like kind of like halfway through the book when it meets in the middle and you see how we got to where we ended up. And I
Yeah.
love that she's been doing that.
In Things We Do in the Dark, I came to like a standstill when they went back in time to when she was a kid.
Hmm.
For some reason, that like those two chapters, I was just confused. Like I was like, I reread them twice because I was like, wait, who the frig are these people? And then I was like, oh, it's her. Like it just, but you'll see why that is the way it is. But it was a little confusing.
I
Um,
had to trust, not trust you, but you had said you were like, this one's going to be hard to put down too. Because when I finished Jar of Hearts,
yeah.
I was like, okay, what's next? Because I need something that's as good as this. And I don't think Things We Do in the Dark was as good as Jar of Hearts, but it was really close for me.
And I thought that it was I agree, but I think standalone, I think it was worth the 5 stars. If you're comparing, nothing's gonna compare to Jar of Hearts. Like it
True.
really sucks that we started with that one. But I think on its own, I was impressed with it.
Yep, that's a great point. Yeah, and I agree with you. I got like I would say it was probably 40% of the way through the book and I was like, what's going on?
It slows down a little bit.
It slows down at the wrong point because you're
Yeah,
confused as a reader and then it slows down. And I will say, like, it took me probably 2 days to read Jar of Hearts, and then it took me like a week and a half. And like, I have been busy, but still, it was like there was that it just hit at the worst point where like now I
yeah,
don't want to turn to it versus Jar of Hearts. Every single chapter, I was like, I have to keep reading. So
yeah,
that's something to keep in mind too. I would start with Things We Do in the Dark
yeah. That one was really good.
because then you're
So
to go read
then
the next one.
Little Secrets was really good. It's about a mom whose son goes missing, and then she like has no will for life. Like she's going through the motions, but like her son's still missing. It's been a year. She's like, what am I doing? And then she finds out that her husband's cheating, and it just like sparks her life. It gives her life back, and she has purpose. And she's like, I'm gonna figure this out. Like I'm gonna find out what happened to my son. And then the story unfolds. And it was really good. That was the first one that I ever predicted the ending by like 30 to 40% way through. But it was one of those like, this could be it, but that seems really like that seems kind of far fetched. Like there's no way that that's going to work out. But then it did. And I was so satisfied that it was like, I think I just have a thriller trained eye at this point. Like I think
Yep.
that's where the pride came in. But that was really good. And all of her books have such closure at the end
Mhm.
that it was really good. So then I read from that one, I went to Wonderland because one of her characters transferred over. The private investigator from Little Secrets is the main character in Wonderland.
How cool.
Her life before she became a private investigator, which is really cool because it ends with her going into private investigating at the end of Wonderland. So it's like full circle moment.
Yeah. So would you recommend reading Wonderland before Little Secrets or do it in the order that you did it?
No, I liked Little Secrets because you get glimpses of this woman, but she's a side character. She's
Yep.
just doing her job, and I think it's much cooler because they do like mention like she left police detective work, and it's like okay, like that's in the back of your mind, but it's not huge. And then this is why she left police detective work. So I liked it because
Cool.
you like get foreshadowing in the first book.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, either were good.
I am so grateful that we found it's almost like I know we you stumbled upon her accidentally, but I feel like we were putting this out in the universe because in the past couple weeks we've both been saying like or maybe last month, whenever it was, we were like we're running out of Frida books, like what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
And then in walks Jennifer, like thank God for her because I didn't realize Little Secrets or Wonderland were both her books. I didn't realize she had this many books.
Yeah. Little Secrets is on Kindle Unlimited.
Mhm.
Wonderland is not, and I bought
Okay.
that one. And bought The Butcher, which I'm reading now, which is much darker than anything else she has written. Like it's borderline disturbing. Actually, no, it is disturbing. Like you should definitely read the trigger warnings on that book before you start. But it's really good. I'm like 30, a little over 30% way through that one, and it's like, holy shit, I can't put it down.
I actually, so I stalk your Goodreads often because whenever I need a book, I'm like, what's Susan up to? And I saw that you were reading The Butcher. I had added that to my want to read list probably 2 years ago. I'm sure I saw some
Yeah.
influencers talk about it and I was like, oh, I'll add it to my list. So it's so full circle that like now, because that's the same author, right? That's still Jennifer
Yeah.
Hillier. So it's
Yeah.
so funny, like it never meant anything to me, but now that we've gotten into her books, now it's like I have to go and read this. But the fact that it's that disturbing, maybe that's like a summer daytime read.
Yeah, it's a little I was reading it last night and I was like, "Ooh, like I gotta like put this down. Like, Chris, talk to me about something happy."
Oh,
Um,
wow.
like it's pretty dark. But like I said, it's good. It's just like the last chapter I read last night, I was like, holy shit. And I just like I literally had to put it down. I'm like, I'm gonna have nightmares if I continue to read this. Like this is just so whack.
Jeez. Okay, so not don't give anything away because I am currently reading this book, but The Surgeon. That was another one that I read because of your Goodreads. And
Yeah, I it had been on my like recommended for you through Goodreads every single time I finished a book, and I was like forget, I'll give it a try. And I loved it, and it was funny because Sarah and I were driving in the car like 2 weeks ago, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm reading this book." She's like, "I thought it was gonna be all medicine, but it's really smut." And I was like, "Wait, is it by Leslie Wolf?" She was like, "Yes." I was like, "Oh my god, I read it, I love it." And she
okay,
was like,
that's good to know because I read the first chapter last night and it was like literally heart surgery and it was like very detailed and bloody and like I am not a doctor show girl and I was reading, I was like, I don't know if I can get through this. So that's good to know that it's not gonna stick like that.
Yeah, no, no. There's two very strong female characters, and their lives just get intertwined and twisted so deep that you're like, where does this not end? And then it kind of explodes at the end, and you're like, holy shit.
But it is a thriller.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
More psychological than like the stuff that we've been. I mean, obviously, most thrillers are like person to person conflict. But yeah, you'll see. It's just like, holy shit.
I love the psychological thriller. That's definitely like I think maybe this is a good like difference. I think Frida does psychological thriller so well, but then
Yeah.
Jennifer Hillier is more like standard thriller. Is
Mhm.
you agree with that?
Yeah.
I think. I'm trying to think of a Frida book that's like so psychological thriller that it was like, "Oh my God." Because I know we've read them and I now that we're like sitting here, I can't think of
For me, that was Ward D. Like,
Word was really good.
Ward D messed with my head. I was like, what is real? What is not?
Yes.
Why is this work? How is this happening? Because you could never answer that. You could never answer how is something happening.
Mhm.
Where in most thrillers, it's like, okay, like there are at least three possibilities here why this is happening. Ward D, it was just like, I have no freaking clue.
And Word D, I think I memoed this to you. I was like, I think I was expecting the ending that I thought Frida was gonna put out. Like I thought I was like, it's gonna be this twisted, this is what it's gonna be, and then it wasn't. And I was like, well, so I think Frida almost wrote it hoping that we would like think that it was gonna
Yeah.
be what I thought it was gonna be, and then it wasn't. So yeah. And I mean, there's so many, like Never Lie, that was a great psychological thriller.
Yeah.
The Inmate, The Perfect Son, Coworker, like honestly, I feel like so many of Frida's are like
Yeah.
good psychological thrillers.
Because she gets you 65% of the way through the book with consistent knowing of like, okay, this is how it's going to end. And then she just throws in some curveballs that you can't see coming, but make very much a lot of sense at the end.
Yes. It's
Just like,
totally unreliable narrator. That's like her
yes.
brand. Like you said, 65% of the way through and you're like, I am like I know these characters, I know what to expect, I know where this is gonna go,
Yeah.
and then you do not. Like you
Yeah.
absolutely do not. What did you think about Too Late, the Colleen Hoover book?
I liked it. I don't want to say I'm over Colleen, but I think she was really exciting when I started reading. And now it's just not for me. All I could picture was frat row
I
in
know,
UNH.
I
That's
know.
all I could picture.
Me too. This
Um,
I thought, and you pointed this out as well. I think the coolest part of this book was the story behind the writing
yeah,
process,
yeah.
which she wrote it, I believe Colleen wrote it during COVID,
Hmm.
as like a hobby project for herself that she would upload onto Facebook, a Facebook group, I think, that like
Yeah,
chapter by chapter she would upload and people would like live respond and be like, I want to know what happens to the characters. So knowing that, it makes sense that the book goes the
yeah.
way it does. But I thought it was a good story. I thought it was really dark.
really good suspense in it. Like I felt like she did hold. There were multiple. You get to a situation, you're like, okay, this must be the climax, and then, you know,
Yes.
20 pages later, you're like, oh no, we're in a very similar situation, but so much worse.
Mhm.
So that I did like that. Like I was definitely kept on my toes, and I liked the characters. I don't know. It just,
It
you know,
was
like when you're, yeah, it was fun. And I think that there's different levels of reading too. And I think that we've been like seriously reading for fun for years now. And I think that that's why maybe like the novelty of
yes.
her has died off a little bit.
And I
Nothing against, but
no, no, she's great, but I think she writes books for like yeah, I don't know how to describe it either, but I know what you're saying. But it's even though that book was so different from any other book she's ever written, it was still the same brand. Like it was still Colleen. It was like, there's going to be the guy and the girl. And so I think part of that for me was a little bit redundant just because we've read
yeah.
so many of them with like you know exactly how it's going to end when it starts, which sometimes is
Yes.
great, but maybe in the middle of our thriller grind, it wasn't the right one to
Yeah.
throw in.
The only book that she totally threw me with was Verity. Oh, and Lila. Those
True.
two are two very different books, and it was like, oh, like whoa. And I think it's because it was more thriller, and I think that that's my niche. I don't think I actually like romance books anymore. Like I think thriller is what I really enjoy reading.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you brought up Verity and Lila. Lila, Layla, whatever.
I want.
Um, oh my God, those two books, that though forget Too Late. Those are two. If you haven't read those, those are Colleen's like some of her best work because
Yeah.
those are good
And
too.
Reminders of Him was really good. I really liked that one.
And I mean, It Ends With Us is like I say it's one of my favorite books and I haven't read it in years, so I should probably go back and reread it and see if that still stands true. But when I read it, I was like, "Oh my God, this
Oh
book is
yeah.
amazing."
I mean,
One of the
we binged Colleen
Oh yeah.
before she was mainstream. So like I'm very thankful for that time when she was kind of a secret.
I know. I feel like, and now it's so funny, like going on TikTok and everyone's like, "Oh my God, this Colleen book," and I'm like, "That is so 3 years ago. Like, where have you been?"
I,
Um, I guess let's talk about Ask for Andrea because this was a little different.
I really liked that book.
I did as
And then
well.
very disappointed with her other books.
I don't think I read any others because you told me that.
I had really high hopes for them. And it makes sense because As for Andrea is one of her newest ones. So obviously like her craft as an author has gotten a lot better. But As for Andrea pretty much follows three ghosts,
Mhm.
essentially, who have the same murderer. And they eventually unite, and then that's the story. But it's wild. That one was really good. And it's like you're like screaming and trying to change the plot, even though there you can't. But that's what had me gripping to it was like, and I think three perspectives that I think two perspectives make a book go faster because you're trying a lot of times you end up trying to like not skip a chapter, but you're trying to get back to the other like point of view. But
Totally.
with three, it's like you have to like you got to get into it because you want to get back to the last person that you were interested about.
I loved, I always appreciate, like, this reminded me a lot of Lovely Bones. Have you read that book?
Yes.
This reminded me a lot of that because of like the ghost talking to her killer and all of that kind of same sort of style and like the ghost going back to their hometown and all of that. But I always love books like this that talk about what the afterlife is because obviously
Mhm.
we do not know. So I always appreciate seeing like author to author talk about like what they think the afterlife is and like how a ghost can do something that or maybe what they can't do and I don't know. So I love the thriller aspect, but I also liked just the world that the author created in making that book seem realistic when obviously it probably isn't realistic. Again, like what do we know? But yeah.
Right.
So many good ones. Like it's been what a year. We're at the beginning of March and we've had so many good books already.
I know. Speaking of March, do we want to talk about habits?
Let's do it. We have 9 minutes left. So I think
Okay.
we can fit it all in.
Do you want to start? Do you want to just do your list and then I'll do my list?
Yeah, I'll start because I will be transparent in saying that I'm kind of disappointed with myself because January was so high. I like my habit
Mm.
tracker looked so good. It was like good for you, Skylar. And then February, I feel like I really fell off track. Like I I was on such a meditation grind, barely meditated. I think it was like 4 times throughout the entire month. Masterclass, I was trying to do so well with that. Never even opened the masterclass website. Like just some things I
Yeah.
really fell off with, like my oil pulling that I had gotten into. So it was so disappointing to see habits that I had actually made habits and then I let them fall. And this was the perfect opportunity to see how easily you can lose track of things if you're not
Yeah.
consistent. Even when you think, yes, I've made this a habit, like it's muscle memory, like getting to that muscle memory point takes so long. And I
Yeah.
dropped
You
off.
It's kind of funny that you started with that because my first one was I removed guilt from the process of habit tracking this month because I did the same thing. I fell off. But I think something that is really noteworthy is I'm guessing how many things do you have on your habit tracker? Like 10?
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
Okay, so we have 19 things. And I downloaded the app Atoms
Yes.
by
Oh,
James
you
Clear.
did?
And I was like, yeah, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. It only lets you add one friggin' habit because you're supposed to master one habit. And
Oh
so
my God.
I think that's why I was allowed to like remove the guilt from habit tracking because it's like, I did do at least 4 things very consistently this month, and that's a win. And I think part of my rationale for that is I did not know this. I like literally was Googling it for my own sanity. Did you know that when you're pregnant, it is the equivalent? You exert the same amount of energy of running a marathon every single day for 40 weeks. And I was like, Chris, I
What?
don't know why I'm so tired. And he was like, Susan, like being pregnant, you literally use more energy than your brain does by like a significant amount. I was like, no, I didn't know this. So I was talking to my friend Liz, who's an RN, Liz, and she was like, yeah, like the amount of physical she's like, let's not even get into mental changes. She's like, the amount of physical changes your body goes through from the second the egg is fertilized. She's like, it's in like you can't compare that to anything. She's like, so it makes sense that you're tired. I was like,
God.
okay, well that makes me feel a lot better about things because like that's a marathon every single day. And I was like, well, at the end of the day, it does feel like that is legitimately how I feel. Like I just feel exerted to the point where there's nothing left. And I was like, that makes so much sense.
I mean, talk about giving yourself grace. Like if there's any if
Yeah.
there's any situation where you deserve to give yourself grace, this is the one.
Hmm.
My
Yeah.
God. Wow.
So with that knowledge, I started giving myself 3 priorities a day. Most
I
of them
like
are
that, Susan.
most of them are work related because it's like, okay, like Susan, you get paid to be here. You need to like sit down and do this.
Yep.
But that is what I focus on. And 3 things, and then so I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, what are 3 things that I do consistently at home? And I was like, laundry. My laundry has never been more taken care of in my life. Our bed is made, I'd say 80% of the week. And
Mhm.
then our house is just clean. Like our house is a nice, cozy place to be, which was my goal when I set out in January. It doesn't feel like I'm doing as much. I'm definitely not talking to as many people as I usually do or like to, but I'm getting something done and
Yeah.
I'm growing bones.
Yeah.
So,
And
multitask.
I feel like that's the perfect like that is the message in that is that if you are focusing on too many things at once, nothing's going to get done. So by
Yeah.
looking at like you've picked 4 things at a time and I have 19, so maybe I should go down to 10 and see what starts to happen is like there's so many things you want to do in a day, but if there's not enough time to get everything done, you often just end up feeling discouraged and then nothing gets done. So if you go down to like cut your list in half or do like what you said, your main priorities that like mean the most to you or like have to get done for your job, work on that. And then once you've mastered those and they actually become muscle memory, then maybe add in one at a time instead of
Mhm.
10 at a time.
And also changing the time frame of things because I know like one big thing for us was like we like to keep the sink clean. Like that is something that we both struggle with. And I was like, it finally got to a point, probably a month ago. And I was like, I will do the dishes after I've had lunch. So I do the dishes once a day.
Yep.
I will do the dishes at lunchtime, Chris comes home, house is clean, we cook dinner. If I'm in the mood to do the dishes, sweet. If not, then I will do them tomorrow at lunchtime. And that is something that I've just been able to let go of, because there's literally days that the afternoon rolls around and I have nothing left. I'm not, sometimes Chris will just do it, but it's
Mhm.
like, and if it doesn't get done, I'm not going to feel guilty about it.
Meet yourself where you are. That like don't like I feel like that's what I'm getting out of what you're saying is why put guilt on yourself that doesn't have to be there.
Right. That's just extra energy that you don't
Yes.
need to be.
Yep. Let's do favorites. I love it. I love the way this went. I think I wanted more of like a wrap up. I wanted like a recap on how our habits were going, and it turned into like actually really actionable advice on how to make your
Yes.
habits consistent. So I love that even more. But let's do favorites.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because I've been on a self-care kick where I really just want to create like rituals for myself that feel
Mhm.
like I'm doing good things for like my skincare, my hair care, my teeth care. Like I want to, like I've started taking like supplements and actually understand what they mean and just like really upping my self-care game and less of like I'm gonna do a face mask at night, but like, okay,
Yeah.
if you're gonna do that, why are you doing it? Like,
Intentional.
yes, intentional self-care. So that's my favorite. It's funny. It's exactly the way our episode went anyways.
My favorite is a slow paced life. And I ran for the first time in 6 months today. Did a whole mile, maybe a little over a mile. And then I walked like a quarter of a mile before I did my workout. And it
Good for
felt
you.
so,
That's
so good.
amazing. That's such a big deal.
Yeah. I
I
told
hate
Chris
it.
yesterday, I was like, I just want to run. Like, that's all I want to do. But I don't know if I can do it. And he was like, just try. I was like, I'm gonna pee my pants. And he was like, so pee your pants. Like, who cares? And I was like, okay. Like, yeah, you're right. Like, like, screw it. I'll send it. And I did not pee my pants. So it was very exciting.
Win, win, and win. Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing, Susan.
Thank
What
you.
is your mantra of the week or your quote of the week?
It's actually so funny that I picked this quote before we had this talk, because this very much aligns with everything we've just talked about. Self compassion releases you, judgment never will.
Ooh, that could not be more on brand.
So, yeah, very aligned.
Oh, I love it. Mine is I haven't even met all of me yet. And I feel like we
Oh,
often see quotes that are like, the best days are yet to come, or like, you haven't even met all the people that will love you. And I always appreciate those quotes, but I saw this one today, and it's like, all those things are true on top of the fact that like you haven't even met all of yourself.
yeah. And that just shows that there's always more self discovery to be done.
Perfect way to wrap up the episode.
Perfect. I love it. What a way to come back.
Yes, I know. Thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure to give us a review and a rating, and we'll see you next time.